Hi guys, I wasn't planning on making a video today, but I kind of needed to, I think, so it's kind of good for me to do these. I don't know who even watches these, or and they're not my usual stuff, but they help, so that's why I make them. So I have been struggling quite a lot recently with the suicidal ideation. It's been difficult because I know what the rational thing is. Like, I know it's my illness, I know it's stress, I know it's all this stuff, but that doesn't make it any easier when I feel it. And something I've been feeling as well, I don't know if any of you guys get this, people who are suicidal or who have been suicidal, do you get like guilt? I'm just like cutting in here because like I got to the end and then I realised I'd kind of like gone off on a tangent. But before I talk about the other stuff, like this is kind of what I meant to say, but I wasn't sure how to word it. But like the guilt I feel, I mean that like when I see, like for example, like Gabby Petito, who I spoke about in the video, these people who are so full of life and so vibrant and so, they love life so much. They love life so much, and they seem like wonderful people. You know those sorts of people. And you hear about these people and they die and these things happen to them, and it makes me feel guilty because I feel like it should be me. I don't know how to explain it. I mean that like when you hear about people we're getting cancer and dying, and these people with such a will to live, and I almost feel ashamed of myself and guilty because something that they want so badly is something that I can't find it in myself to value enough, and something that it makes me feel extremely ungrateful. I don't know if any of you guys feel that. Sorry for cutting in here, but like before I go off on a tangent, like, so yeah, I feel very, very guilty about that, you know, about being somebody who actually a lot of the time does want to die, and who thinks about it as a comfort. And I don't know, it just feels it feels bad. It makes me feel very guilty and ashamed because there are so many people that would do anything to be alive, and they don't get that chance. Like they don't have that option. I don't know, I feel guilty about that. I don't know if any of you guys feel that. I sometimes I hear about people and see things like that, and you know, like little kids with horrible like with illnesses that will kill them, and they're so bright and they love life so much, and I just think, if only I could give my life to you instead. Like, if only that was something you could do. But you obviously can't do that. But I don't know, that's just something I think about. I just think, you know, you can do blood transfusions, you can do all these things, but, you know, if you could give your life to one of these people, I feel like I'm kind of unworthy of it because I don't appreciate it, maybe. I know it's not my fault. I know there's a lot of stuff that's gone on that's made me feel like really suicidal a lot. I know it's not my fault. I know it's something that was done to me. But I still think about that all the time. Like, I do feel bad about that. I really do feel very bad and guilty about that. Like, what right have I to think like that about life, is how I feel. You know, I know that's not rational, but I do feel that sometimes. I don't just mean guilt in terms of like, I think we all feel guilty in terms of, you know, having a relative that is suicidal or that gets so low, you know. It can be tough for the people around you. Not in the sense that it's your fault or anything like that. You know, people have physical disabilities, like, not that people treat that much better, honestly, but, you know, people have all sorts of issues in life. But, you know, there is a guilt to that, because even the small things, like even when you're not like actively like really bad in front of them, I get guilt about being fake. So like I don't really laugh that much in a genuine way, like unless I'm with Dan, really. You guys will have seen my real laugh because you've seen me do videos with Dan, and we're doing a video soon. But it's a really difficult one because you end up feeling like a bit of a fraud, because you, like I spoke about masking before, like you want to try and put on like a happy persona, and you want to try and like not bring people down with your energy. But it's really exhausting. And also people come to expect that of you, so that can be really hard because you end up doing something that is not realistic to be able to keep up, so you're actually going to exhaust yourself and kind of crash, like you're setting yourself up to crash. That's really, really difficult, like in terms of, I think I said about before, like childhood, etc. Like, you know that poem, Remember Your Childhood Well, you know, there's a lot of, there's almost a lot of, like, I think some of the guilt and the frustration and like the of it all, I don't know if you guys are the same, is that obviously when you're young you don't have the words to describe things anyway, like you don't, there's a certain point where you realise things aren't right, but you don't 100% know how other people feel, and for a certain time you think what you're used to is normal, and the way that you feel is normal. And even when you kind of start understanding those things, like you don't have the vocabulary, like you can't talk about it, so you do mask pretty young, so you're trying to not seem like, I don't know, for me, like I didn't want to seem like I was naughty or disobedient, or that I was letting anyone down or putting any more pressure on mum, or so I masked it for such a long time that I think I said before, like it came as like a shock to some of the people around me when I suddenly had the breakdown when I was 12, because I kept so much bottled up. Like I felt like I wasn't being me. Like I felt like every day I was waking up and pretending to be someone else, and then it got to a point where I started not even remembering who I had been before. I lost the person. I don't know who that was, because every day it was just a mask. School, like, I know that some people on here have said that they were bullied at school. I got bullied at school for a little bit, like only for like, it was like a year, over a year, but it was like, there were people at my school that got bullied horrendously, and it was not on that scale. But I mean, I read some comments from you guys saying about how much that impacted you, you know, like how having to mask, having to like try and fit into a social situation you don't fit into. And I think people who are neurodiverse anyway, like we naturally kind of do that, like when we're young. I did. So it's hard because so many of the friendships you make in early life and the relationships with people that you love around you, and in some ways good, well-meaning people as well, like not as a criticism, but it's not the real you. So later in life you get to a point where you have a breakdown, or you understand, and you start trying to get back in touch with that person you lost and who you were. And that can be really hard for people around you, because it feels like you've changed very much and they're having to get used to somebody different, and it's very confusing for people. And I don't know, that's something I really struggle with, like being honest now as an adult about how I actually did feel as a child and the mask that I did put on. And then that obviously makes things even worse in some ways, because you sometimes don't even have the evidence for how you were feeling, because you were so determined not to show it, that now you're older, there's just this gaping space, like there's nothing to point to. Well, I mean, I had journals, so I mean, I know not everyone does that. I really love writing, and I always have, so I kept a lot of journals. Even then, I used to self-edit in the journals. There are some pages in my journals that, honestly, I would write, and then I would feel so guilty about what I wrote, being ungrateful or being unkind or feeling a certain way towards certain people or feeling these things that I know now I had every right to feel, but back then, the guilt of it, the strange, conflicting feelings, and then sometimes I would just scribble the page out. So, I don't know, I wish I could go back to that little girl and say, keep the journals, don't scribble them out, like, keep them, and I don't know. But sometimes self-editing, like, and the masking, like, it even seeps into your own reality, like, sometimes you can start to believe it yourself. Yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, definitely, like, looking back and thinking about, like, you know, you seem so happy, and being completely honest, and I think it's hurtful for people sometimes to think that they didn't know the real you, and they feel hurt because, I don't know, I link this in my head to being LGBT, so, like, obviously, it's not the same, of course, and loads of people who are LGBT actually have mental health issues, so it overlaps, but it's that issue, isn't it, of hiding who you are for other people, trying to be more acceptable, and then when you actually do become more comfortable and start trying to figure out who you are, for some people around you, like, it's a good thing and they really support you, and, you know, that they should. I mean, the healthy thing to do would be to help someone through that and get to know you on different terms. And I know that, like, for example, for trans people, like, it can be that way. Like, a lot of trans people get, like, shamed or guilted, like there's a loss, but there's no loss. You can't lose something that's never been. The only loss that's happening is someone feeling like they can't be honest, and they can't tell you that. Not that that's the person's fault. I'm not saying that they weren't being honest, but as in, the loss is their loss, you know. It's their loss that they had to mask, and it took them, you know, all the struggles they've had to go through. I think about it like that. And it's the same with being like bisexual or lesbian or gay, because, you know, sometimes when you understand it and you, like, meet more people in the community, you become more, like, emboldened, and, like, it's like an identity. And I think it unsettles people around you sometimes because they know you a certain way, and they don't realise that, like, they think you're putting something on, when actually what you're doing is you're allowing something out. And some people get that really confused. So I don't know, I find that hard. But I know it's difficult looking back at my childhood, because I have to understand that, like, I think in any family, everyone has different feelings and different ideas about, like, how people felt, like, how things were. Some of it can be really idealised. You know, I've spoken about how my family is quite appearance focused in terms of maybe projecting, like, quite a good image. Like, granddad obviously was a doctor, grandma was a teacher. They're good people, like, really genuinely good people. But it, you know, it is very much sort of. I do remember feeling like, oh, I don't want to let the side down, you know, that kind of thing. You know, it felt very much like that. That's how I relate to Diana a lot, Princess Diana, because I feel like maybe she felt a bit like that as well. Like, she can't help it, and she's trying her best. The more she tries, the worse she gets, because it's taking up more of her energy, so she crashes more, and she has to try and project this image. And I don't know, I just relate to that quite a lot. But yeah, I think being quite, like, appearance focused, like, it's quite a shift. It's quite a shift from, in some ways, it's the death of, to other people. Like, for me, it's like a rebirth. Understanding that I was ill and my experiences and how they formed me, and starting to understand my psychology, was a rebirth for me. It was a good, positive thing. But it didn't feel like that at first, because for other people it felt like a death. For other people it felt like the death of what they had thought happened, or how they thought I'd felt, or I think maybe there's guilt involved as well. It can feel like a death, you know, when the new person emerges. And it's just, I don't know, it's a strange situation, especially when you still don't actually know who you are because you lost it so young. I was talking to Dad on the phone recently, and he calls me all the time. So obviously Dad left when I was like 3.5. I didn't see him for a lot of years. It was really difficult because I felt like I had to choose a side, and I felt very disloyal, and I felt very torn. You know, it put a lot of extra anxiety on my relationship with Dad that shouldn't really have been put on me. But then also I don't blame my mum, because she was obviously a single parent trying her best, and under circumstances that are very difficult, especially with my mum being ill as well, and not having medication or anything, and, you know, the family situation, the way she was treated. You know, you can't expect somebody to act, like, in a perfect way. Like, that's just a fantasy. Like, we all know, like, the right way to behave, but we're never gonna always do it. We're all gonna, like, slip up, and, like, that's just life. But, you know, it was difficult. But I speak to Dad all the time now, so he calls all the time, and I really like talking to him. And, you know, I've always loved Dad a lot, like, even when I didn't see him, and at times I felt like I had to act like I hated him sometimes to be loyal. But I never did, and that kind of tore me up a bit inside, because deep down, like, I felt guilt for the love, maybe. I don't know. I always loved Dad completely fiercely. Never ever died in me, ever. And never can. Like, I don't know, something like that. I think sometimes it just, I don't know how it is for other people. I can't say it's just like, some people say, you know, dads and daughters have a bond, but I know there's loads of daughters who don't have those bonds with their dads. Maybe I was just lucky. I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, in some ways, obviously, I didn't have Dad around, so that was difficult. And it felt like a loss, and it felt such anxiety around it, I guess. Betrayal of being split and betraying one side, and was I not, like, angry on behalf of Mum, or... But, I don't know, it's so complicated. But I do find that, like, with both of my parents, like, it's become easier, like, the relationships I find are better as adults. Personally, that's just how I find. Like, I find forming new adult relationships. Like, Mum and I did family therapy after Mum was in that really awful relationship. But we'd had issues, you know, before that time anyway. But, you know, that was when it really came to a head and we ended up in therapy. And in some ways, I mean, it's a horrible thing to happen. But it was almost like it was a breaking point, and then we went to family therapy and we understood each other so much more. And, you know, I don't know, it was just really helpful. But as adults, I find it slightly easier. It's still difficult. Sometimes I feel like I still sometimes feel like I'm being fake with my dad, which is ridiculous because, like, he obviously knows, like, he knows me and he knows how I feel, and, you know, he follows my social media, etc. Like, he knows these things. But I still almost feel like, I don't know, it's just not like I'm letting him down, because Dad would never ever think I let him down, like, ever. He would never ever make me feel that way. But just, I guess there's a grief because, I mean, this is what started me talking about Dad anyway. But, like, he said that obviously when he was here, when I was growing up, I was a very happy, confident, outgoing little girl, and I do remember that. And I do have some memories of Dad being here, and I honestly remember being really happy. And I try not to feel sad about that, because I know some people don't ever have the happiness at all. So obviously it was hard that things got bad. But, you know, it's better to have had someone, I think. I don't know. But, you know, it was just a horrible situation. But I was happy then, and I was confident. And over the years, I kind of got changed into something else by various situations and circumstances. And that's a grief, I feel. It's hard to grieve for something that you've never known, and maybe it's like, maybe you idealise it in your head, you know, maybe you idealise something that never was. But I do think about, you know, what could things have been like? Who could I have been? What if someone had helped me? What if I had spoken? What if it was a different time? What if people were more open about mental health? What if Mum had got help earlier? So many what ifs in life, aren't there? So many. I don't want to, like, dwell on them and, like, get depressed or anything, because I think everyone has those. Like, it's quite normal to look back and think, oh, I wish. But I guess that's why I do this. I guess that's why I talk about mental health stuff, because I know, I just feel like there has to be a purpose to it, because I can't accept and I won't accept that I went through that and got so warped and changed, and, like, that I became something so different and so damaged, and, like, from what I was. Like, I can't accept that was for nothing, and I won't accept it was for nothing. You know, maybe I was always meant to use the experiences to reach out to other people. Maybe. I don't know. But it's just sad because, you know, talking about, like Dad was saying, about how happy I was, and I think I said in another video before that I think the last time I remember being really happy was when I was about 5, and then past that point, never. I know, that's weird to talk about. I don't know, is that something that you guys get? I don't know if it's a BPD thing, I don't know if it's just mental illness, I don't know if it's a trauma thing, I don't know if it's a dysfunction thing, I don't know why that is, but I just don't feel happy. And I don't even say that to be dramatic, like, I don't feel happy. Yeah, don't know. I can laugh, like, I get really passionate about things, I get really, really invested in things. I laugh so much when I'm with Dan. I love being with Dan. That's one of the things I live for, really. I think, obviously aside from the fact that I couldn't do that to Dan, you know, I couldn't have him lose his sister. You know, there's already been so much stuff going on that we've both had to contend with, and it would just be so cruel and like a sick twist of fate for me to go and leave him now, you know, to just abandon him. Like, it wouldn't be right. We came into this together. well, I was already 3, but the situation changed at the same time for us. We came into it together, because when Dan arrived, everything changed for me too. In the same week that Dan was born, Dad went, and everything changed. So we really both went through it together. And I just want to get to the end together as well, you know. I just know that if whatever happens to me in my life, like no matter what relationships I have, no matter what horrible things happen, I know that I have my brother. I'll always have that friend, I'll always have that person. No matter where we are in the world, Dan's probably going to travel around and like act and all these things, and I'll be able to watch him on TV, and maybe even write for him sometimes. But, you know, I feel like we came into it together, so I'm not going to bail on him now. I wouldn't do that to him. But, yeah, I don't know, it's just thinking back over a lot of stuff. It's hard to... I find it weird, like when you go through old photographs, so it was Dan's birthday recently, so we're going through old photographs, and the way that, you know, smiling photographs really don't tell the whole picture at all, they really don't tell the whole story. Someone said something like that recently, I won't say what, but I heard someone say something like that, like, you know, such and such person said they were so unhappy, but the picture tells differently. This wasn't about me, by the way, it was something else. It was just something I overheard. And it just made me think about how difficult that can then be, even coming to terms with that yourself, because there's a grief in it, for what you could have had and the happy times you could have had. But also the fact that because you had to mask because of the situation, it also means that it's very, very difficult to even then have the evidence of it, if that makes sense. Because you pretend it isn't happening. So, like, Gabby Petito, the Gabby Petito case, really, really upsets me, that case. I just think it's so many people go through what Gabby did, like, in different ways. And I really do relate to Gabby. I hope that I can't believe that her life was taken in vain, you know. I can't believe that. I believe that her mark will be that her legacy will save other people. I believe that. I can't believe it's for nothing. I can't believe that, like, a beautiful soul, like, can... I can't believe that. I can't believe that about anyone that gets murdered. Like, I can't believe it's for nothing. I refuse to believe that. But looking back, you know, people are now trawling back over the things with Brian, for example. And obviously, like, you know, we don't know that Brian... You know, we don't know who did what that to Gabby. We know he's a person of interest, etc. But the fact that it's so difficult when Gabby herself... And I don't mean this in a victim-blaming way, I completely understand it. When the victim themselves is so conditioned that they will cover, they will take blame, they will take all that upon themselves. When something tragic happens, it's a shock to people, because it's not that people don't care. And I hope if you're somebody who, you know, has known somebody that's been in a situation of domestic violence or abuse, etc., I hope you don't feel too guilty, because, you know, it's not your fault. Like, the person in a situation like that, this can happen in so many situations, but, like, when you're a kid as well, like, there are so many ways in which you cover it yourself. You do that work. Maybe, I don't know, you just get used to it, and people in those relationships do it. And that's why it's such a shock to people. And that's why it's so weird to me sometimes, like when I see, like, a holiday photo sometimes. Like, I'll see a holiday photo and I'll be smiling and I'll be really well dressed, because my mum, like, is very fashionable, always used to dress me in nice clothes. And, like, smiling, and there's Dan as well. And I don't know, it's like, it sounds like a weird thing to say, it's like being gaslit by your own face, like by your own photographs. Because sometimes I'll think, I remember that holiday, I remember the day that was taken, I remember this, I remember that. But all that's left is the photograph, because no one wants to talk about or think about or record the bad things. People want to pretend these things don't happen. So it's easier to pretend they don't happen. So no one documents it, no one talks about it. And then it's lost. And then it only exists in your head. And, I mean, like I said, I have Dan. So, you know, I at least have the fact that, like, I know I'm not crazy, because I have Dan. So... But to not have Dan, to not have had Dan, I can't imagine, you know, going through photographs. I imagine it must drive people truly out of their minds, truly. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just thinking a lot about stuff and rebuilding myself and what that means, and trying to be more honest. Trying to be more honest with myself and with other people about boundaries. Like, I'm trying to be more myself and figure out who that is. At 27, still trying to figure out who that is. Everything I'm good at and everything I do is masking. That's a weird thing that I've come to terms with. And in some ways it's a superpower. Like, I try to think about it like a good thing, because music, art, writing, you're telling a story, you're framing it, there's a lot of control involved in those things. Like I told you before, that a lot of my mental health issues come from being unstable, out of control, like not being, like feeling like there was no help or anything, like not really understanding, turning it inwards, like there was nothing to help me. So you become really creative, and for me, I became really creative, and I'm really good at, like, fiction. In terms of fiction, like, I'm really good at getting into other people's heads and thinking about different worlds and stuff, because that's where I spent my time. You know, that's where I spent my life, like, in my head. So, and I know this is definitely a BPD thing, but, like, if someone asked me to describe myself to them, I don't know what I'd say. I don't know what I'd say. I don't even know if I'm a good person. All I can say is that I can tell you the things I love, like, I love Dan, I love Pre-Raphaelite art, I love Florence and the Machine, I love history, I'm quite political, left-wing, socialist. I can say what I try to be, I can't say what I am. I can say that I try to be a good person. I try to correct my mistakes, I try to learn, I try to listen, I try really hard to understand people. I try not to be cold, I try to be fair. I don't always manage these things, but I try. But I couldn't tell you who I was, because I never grew into who I was or who I was meant to be. Maybe I was meant to be this, but that person, you do grieve it. It feels like a death. You grieve whoever that little girl would have been. I can see her in my head. I know. I feel like, I think she'd be quite a lot more like Dad. I think she'd be much more outgoing. I think I'd be a bit more mouthy, definitely. I think I'll be stronger. I think I'll be a bit stronger. I don't know, it's gone. It's gone, and you won't know. I will never know. I'll never know who that person was, who that person could have been. I don't know, it's sad. It's a sad thing to think about, I guess. I'm thinking about that kind of thing a lot. I don't want to, like, get lost in it and think, oh, woe is me, like, you know, I could have been this, could have been that. Because, you know, for you guys watching as well, like, you've got to work with what you've got. And if you have one life, I think maybe you do only have one life. That's my belief anyway. I think you have one life. I do think after you're at peace, I do try and believe that you're at peace afterwards. But I think you only do have one life. And I think the struggles that you have, I just think you have to just try and create something good out of them. Just try. That's why I make the channel. That's why I'm not a proper YouTuber. I say that in quotation marks, you know. I'm not the sort of... After so much time spent masking and, you know, everything, like not being myself, truly, not knowing myself. That's why my videos, like, they're not like normal YouTube videos, you know, they're not like lighting, setup, this, that. I just want to be me and find out who I am. Because that's what I'm doing, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out, and I don't know. So, I don't know. I'm hoping that the person that I will love in the future and that will love me will be able to know who I am, even if I don't, and that they'll be able to love me for it. I hope. Don't know. But yeah. So anyway, that was a video. I just unplanned talking. I'm quite low at the moment, but you know, that is just life. So yeah. Alright, I love you loads. See you soon. I am going to do a video with Dan soon, so that will be good, because he does make me laugh. And I like spending time with Dan. If I have to be here, on this planet, in this situation, if I have to, you know, if this is me, then, you know, at least if there is a God, and I think probably there is, at least God gave me my brother. I wasn't meant to go through it on my own. Even if I had to go through things, I was never meant to go through that on my own. So, yeah. Okay. I love you loads, and I will see you really soon. Bye.